The honourable member for, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm afraid we're at 2 o'clock. We'll go on to statements by members, and if the honourable member wants to bring it up after question period, that would be fine. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, there's an elephant in the room here in the House of Commons, and that elephant is the assimilation of francophones and the anglicization of Quebec. All around the world, systems based on institutional bilingualism and individual rights, like the system we have in Canada, promote the assimilation of minority languages. And what has the Minister of Heritage done? Well, just a consultation to promote that same outdated model. This is why I am undertaking a new consultation on French as a common language and an official language, where we will try to promote a model based on collective rights. This is a model that is proven to help ensure the future of national languages. I invite all citizens to participate in these consultations, and we'll be starting in Quebec. Ensuring a strong future for the French language is not only our right, but our responsibility for linguistic and cultural diversity. And the best way to do that is to make Quebec a country.
A member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The lack of mental health services in Nunavut continues to have a profound and tragic effect on Nunavut youth. Years of societal and cultural disruption have led to increased multi-generational trauma among Inuit. As a result, many have turned to alcohol and other substances, and sadly, this reality has led to a suicide rate that is 10 times the national average, a statistic that hasn't changed since it's been declared a crisis in 2015. I don't think there's a family in Nunavut that hasn't been affected by suicide or alcohol and substance abuse. I know mine certainly has. And I know all too well the forceful, lasting impact it can have. Mr. Speaker, this is unacceptable in Canada in 2017. The government of Nunavut urgently requires adequate federal funding to provide the mental health services needed to break this cycle and ensure a brighter future for Nunavut youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Mr. Speaker, as we prepare to return to our home communities this summer, I encourage all members in this House to look how trade supports jobs and growth in their ridings. Thanks to the Canadian softwood lumber industry, North American home and cottage owners will again have the unique pleasure of backyard projects. Building that new deck, staining the fence, building the dock for the cottage, and so many other wood-related projects, all thanks to the Canadian softwood lumber industry. The Canadian softwood lumber industry has been ground zero for the infamous honey-do list. All around this house, we can see many softwood products, Kleenex in the lobby, the labels on the envelopes, in the envelope itself, even the occasional child's diaper. Softwood lumber products can be found everywhere. What else do these products have in common? They are produced in my province of New Brunswick and are shipped across Canada and internationally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Medicine Hat, Clarkston Warner.
Mr. Speaker, Southern Alberta is home to the foremost unmanned air systems test range. Their foremost test range is 2,400 square kilometers of restricted airspace up to an altitude of 18,000 feet, set aside for drone research and testing. It is the only location in Canada to receive Transport Canada's authorization and is one of only a handful worldwide with comparable capabilities. Although started as an economic development initiative by the Village of Foremost, the test range is now a national asset that benefits Canada's large and small companies alike. It enables the next generation of civil and commercial drone applications in agriculture, forestry, oil and gas, and the environment, where drone use will improve soil and water quality and create low-cost methods for monitoring pipelines and power lines. Their foremost unmanned air systems test range gives Canadian companies a home to develop their technology in order to meet domestic requirements and those of the rapidly expanding global marketplace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable député de Saint-Jean.
The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the devotion and hard work of municipal elected officials is an important basis for the future. I would like to acknowledge the work of the mayor of Sainte-Anne-de-Sabrevois, Denis Roland, a former colleague at the Haut-Richelieu Regional District. Mr. Roland spent 45 years in public life, including over 25 years as mayor of that municipality. Under his guidance, Sainte-Anne-de-Sabrevois became one of the first municipalities in Quebec to create an urban development plan, allowing for the installation of modern infrastructure. He helped the region move forward. He fostered a sense of belonging in the community. The creation of the Honoré Mercier Museum, in the home where that former Quebec premier was born, is a fine example of his work. Mr. Roland is an example of a great community builder. He's made the riding of Saint-Jean shine. Honourable Member for Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing. Mr. Speaker, it's almost summer, and I'd like to invite everyone to visit my beautiful riding, Algoma, Manitoulin, Kapuskasing. This weekend, we'll be having the biggest Saint-Jean party in Ontario.
21st National Aboriginal Day celebrations are taking place in communities across the riding. To celebrate Canada 150, there are hundreds of activities taking place. Wawa will reveal their new Wawa Goose, the largest landmark of its kind in Canada and one of the most photographed landmarks in North America. Echo Bay celebrates the 30th anniversary of the circulation of the loonie, a coin which has become a national symbol, and the 25th anniversary of the Big Loonie Monument, built to honor the loonies artist Robert Ralph Carmichael. If this isn't enough, on August 10th, Lester B. Pearson's granddaughter will be in Kagawan for the official launch of the Old Mill Heritage Centre Museum's exhibit of the Lester B. Pearson's collection. We hope the Prime Minister will attend to celebrate the life of a close family friend. All this and so much more happening in AMK this summer. Hope to see you all there.
Hey. Honourable Member for Sackville Preston Chesapeake.
Mr. Speaker, I see Parliament as a stunning tribute to the Canadian values of peace, freedom, equality, respect for cultural differences, and law and order. Mr. Speaker, those are the words of Braden Marshall, a student in grade 8 from Fall River, Nova Scotia in my riding. And he's here with his dad, Mark, today, and 5 other finalists. Of course, in your National Speakers contest, of course, Writers Contest. Brandon, un étudiant en immersion.
Brandon has been a French immersion student since kindergarten. He's one of hundreds of young Canadians who has been studying French since kindergarten.
Ask the House and all members to join me in welcoming Brandon, Marshall, and the 5 other finalists, Charlotte, Lindsay, Armas, Aisha, and Orphalie, to Parliament here today, and thank them for their
Je précise beaucoup.
I appreciate the member's intention. I hope that he's listening. But he should know that only the speaker can recognize people in the gallery. Members are not supposed to do that. So in the future, I hope he will remember that and respect that practice.
Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, last week Heather and I attended the 70th Annual Stephen Leacock Medal for Humor Awards in Orillia, Ontario. Orillia, after all, is the fictional Mariposa from his famous novel, Sunshine Sketches of a Little Town. The Stephen Leacock Medal is awarded to the best literary work of humor by a Canadian author, and some of Canada's best have received it. Mordecai Richler, W.O. Mitchell, Will Ferguson, and Terry Follis, to name a few. This year, the Leacock Associates have awarded the medal to Gary Barwin of Hamilton, Ontario, for his novel Yiddish for Pirates, the same work that put him on the finalists for last year's Governor General's Literary Award and the Giller Prize. I'd like to thank the Leacock Associates and TD Financial Group for recognizing another outstanding contribution to Canadian literature, and I invite all honourable members to join me in congratulating the 2017 Leacock Medal for Humor Award, Gary Barwin.
The honourable member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, we are in the midst of one of the most significant celebrations in our history, Canada 150. Festivities are ramping up in all corners of the country. My riding of Cloverdale-Langley City is no different, with significant celebrations planned for Canada Day and throughout the rest of the summer. As we celebrate 150 years of Canadian Confederation, we must also remember that the history of this land goes back well beyond 1867. Long before Sir John A. Macdonald became our country's first Prime Minister, Indigenous peoples lived on the territory that would one day become Canada. It is this rich history that reminds us that just as this is a time of celebration, it is also a time of reconciliation. I also remind Canadians that all Parks Canada national parks and national historic sites are free throughout 2017. These parks and sites are national treasures set out for the enjoyment of all Canadians. I encourage everyone to take advantage of our country's natural and cultural marvels. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and from everyone in Cloverdale-Langley City to all Canadians and everyone in this House, Happy Canada 150.
The honourable member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, this is a great year for all Canadians. On July 1st, we'll mark 150 years of Canada's Confederation. Canada is known around the world for many things, which makes us such a special country. For the brave soldiers and peacekeepers who protect our values around the world. The image of the maple leaf waved and worn proudly around the world. The Indigenous community with a deep history and multiculturalism that enriches each of our lives. We are a country of open arms, welcoming people from around the world. In Brampton South, we are also celebrating the 150th anniversary of Brampton's Grace United Church Elderly Historic Home and the Palmer Courthouse. Canada Day speaks to all Canadians. I want to encourage all Canadians to connect with neighbours, family and friends and celebration what it means to be Canadian. In Brampton South, that can mean spending time at Gage Park, learning about the heritage at Pama, enjoying the evening at Rose Theatre or Garden Square downtown. As we approach July 1st, Mr. Speaker, I would like to...
The honourable member for Calgary Confederation.
Mr. Speaker, June is Stroke Month in Canada. More than 400,000 Canadians live with long-term disability from stroke, and that number is expected to double in the next 20 years. Due to increased awareness of the signs of stroke and improvements in early stroke management, most people, 80% in fact, now survive a stroke. Recovery can take months or years, even for milder strokes, and many people never fully recover. It is a long, costly, and difficult road. Acute care has improved dramatically. Unfortunately, the system has not kept pace. There are gaps in rehabilitation, community services, and support. Family caregivers play a critical role in rehabilitation, and it is stressful and exhausting. The Heart and Stroke Foundation is ready to help, but it needs our support for both patients and caregivers. Together with stakeholders, we can raise awareness and improve stroke outcomes for thousands of Canadians.
Honourable member for Beaches East York.
Mr. Speaker, it is critical that we trust in science and in our scientists. Despite recent challenges, I remain hopeful about global efforts to tackle climate change because of our history of innovation and leadership in science. With that history in mind, I rise to recognize the 25th anniversary of the UV Index, a scale invented here in Canada and adopted by the WHO and the UN Environment Programme internationally. In particular, I want to recognize the 3 Toronto-based Environment Canada scientists who invented the index: Jim Kerr, David Wardle, and Beaches East York constituent Tom McElroy, now a professor at York's Department of Earth and Space Science and Engineering. In a sense, we managed to put a hat on everybody in the world. That's Tom's modest way of describing an incredible accomplishment, an accomplishment that has not only improved public health awareness, but that serves as a reminder of the progress we can achieve when we put our trust in science and give our scientists both freedom and funding to do their work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Orleans.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is no closer friend, partner, and ally than the United States of America. Canadians were deeply concerned to hear about an attack in Alexandria, Virginia yesterday, which targeted a Republican congressional baseball practice. This was a cruel and heinous attack, and we condemn it in the strongest possible terms. Every year, Republican and Democratic Senate and House members get together for the annual congressional baseball game where they solidify friendships and raise money for charity. Following this attack, Democrats and Republicans got together again and called for bipartisan unity, and today the Congressional Baseball Game for Charity will be played as scheduled. We commend their bravery and their determination not to let this attack cause rifts, and we wish all those injured in the attack a complete and speedy recovery. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all Canadians who value our friendship with our American friends and neighbours so dearly, we wish the best of luck to both teams as they stand fast against this act of hate and play their annual game. Thank you very much.
Hear, hear. Honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in this House of Commons to recognize the life of Rick Plaisir. Rick was a husband, a father, a friend, and a teacher. My heart goes out to his wife Marie, their three sons, Kent, Todd, and Sean, and their families. Through his career, he inspired generations of students as a teacher and then later as principal of Verdon Junior High School. After retirement, Rick began evaluating educational programs on First Nations reserves as an effort to improve learning outcomes in these areas. Rick defined what it means to be an advocate for his community through his work, first as Mayor of Rossburn, Mayor of Verdon, as Reeve of the RM of Sifton, and finally as Western Manitoba's region on the Association of Manitoba, representative rather at the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. He was concerned with regional flooding and the very existence of Oak Lake as a water sport and fishing mecca. As a Lions Club member, he rose to district governor. I am proud to have known this man and to have called him a friend. Thank you, Rick, for your tireless work. Westman is undoubtedly a better place because of you.
The honourable member for Miramichi Grand Lakes.
Speaker, today, June 15th, the Golden Hawks, Canada's first national aerobatic team, will be inducted into the Canadian Aviation Hall of Fame. In 1959, Royal Canadian Air Force Base Chatham was chosen to be the home for Canada's first official national aerobatic team. The program was then established as a permanent unit of the RCAF thanks to the tremendous success of the Golden Hawks. In 1967, RCAF Chatham honored the Golden Hawks by dedicating an F-86 Sabre in front of the base recreation center, where it stood until it was moved to the Atlantic Canada Aviation Museum. This monument honored the members of the team, but also all the men who flew that same aircraft during the Cold War. I invite you all to my beautiful riding of Miramichi Grand Lake this summer, where there will be a community celebration honoring the RCAF Golden Hawks and their significant role in Canada's aviation history. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Churchill, Kiiwetinoong-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise to share the sense of frustration and abandonment that many face in our region of northern Manitoba. Frustration that the federal government is nowhere to be found in these tough times. Churchill and the Bayline communities are devastated. The American billionaire that owns the rail line and the port has left them completely stranded. Fishers in Norway House, Oboden, and Fisher River, as well as many others, are fighting the dismantling of freshwater fish. Workers and families in Thompson and Flin Flon are worried as they receive news of major job losses, including the loss of value-added processing jobs. First Nations aren't seeing the commitment to increase funding for education, housing, child welfare, or on-treaty land entitlement. Northern Manitoba has given a great deal to Canada, and it's time for the federal government to step up, to nationalize the port and rail line, to protect FFMC, to stand up for good jobs, and to live up to its commitment to First Nations. We demand that this Prime Minister act. It is time to stand up for our North and our Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding earlier this month, I was honoured to attend the Long Table Feast HoC, hosted by Denise Hepner and Brenda Wientz. This event was a fundraiser in support of Freedom Challenge. Freedom Challenge is a movement of passionate women who participate in physical challenges dedicated to raising funds and awareness to combat the injustice of human trafficking, which affects hundreds of thousands of women and children worldwide. Freedom Challenge has led women to climb the Rockies, Alps, Kilimanjaro, and to the Everest Base Camp. More importantly, Freedom Challenge has raised millions of dollars to support the work of combating human trafficking. I want to recognize and thank the hosts and the volunteers of this fundraiser, as well as all those who attended to support the important work of Freedom Challenge. I wish everyone who participates in addressing this struggle all the best as they strive to set women and children on the pathway to freedom.
The honourable member for Acadie-Bathurst.
Member of Parliament for Acadie-Bathurst, I would like to rise to congratulate all those receiving their diploma this spring. C'est une grande réussite.
I'm extremely proud of the great accomplishments of the graduates from the 5 secondary schools, 2 colleges, and 1 university in my riding. I hope the new graduates will remember everything they've learned over the course of their studies so that they can set the objectives that will help them succeed in life. I always encourage them to embrace lifelong learning and to find ways to use their unique talents to contribute to our society. We're counting on them to continue making Canada a wonderful, free, and safe place to live.
Of life is about to start for those graduates. Whatever path they choose, I want them to know that each of them will shape the future of tomorrow. Félicitations pour...
Congratulations on this great achievement, and stay safe on graduation night. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Has already misled Canadians once when he said our allies were A-OK with us pulling out of the fight against ISIS. We know now that just wasn't true. It's clear he's doing it again when he says the U.S. was consulted and gave the green light to Canada selling defense technology to the Chinese. Will the Prime Minister just admit the U.S. was not happy about this sale, but he didn't care, so he approved it anyway?
Good. Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we have enormous confidence in our national security agencies who do their work properly, who examine all the relevant facts, Mr. Speaker, who follow the process and make a thoughtful recommendation. They made a recommendation and we followed that recommendation and we followed their advice, Mr. Speaker. This is exactly the multi-step review process that exists under the Investment in Canada Act, Mr. Speaker. We never have and we never will compromise on national security.
Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said that the U.S. had been consulted, but if they had been consulted, wouldn't our ambassador on the ground in Washington have known about it? He didn't seem to know about it, and now the Prime Minister has put our ambassador in a very difficult situation. Why is the Prime Minister so intent on appeasing China that he's willing to not only put the safety and security of Canadians at risk, but also jeopardize the important relationship we have with our closest ally, friend, and trading partner, the United States? Yes.
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear that we have followed the process under the Investment in Canada Act, Mr. Speaker. All transactions are subject to a national security review. But more broadly, Mr. Speaker, we're focused on the economy and we're focused on investments coming to Canada. That is why in the first quarter we saw growth up by 3.7%, Mr. Speaker. That is why since we formed government, the unemployment rate has gone from 7.1% to 6.6%. That's 250,000 good quality full-time jobs over the past 6 months.
Well, Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says he wants middle-class Canadians and those working hard to join them to pay even more for Internet services. We know the Liberals are proposing a 5% additional tax on everyone's Internet bill. Canadians are hoping that this is the Prime Minister's version of a very late April Fool's joke. Actually, Mr. Speaker, it's ridiculous. Will the Prime Minister commit today that he will not implement an Internet tax on hard-working Canadian families? Yes or no?
The Minister of Canadian Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. Our government will not be introducing a tax on the Internet. Since we were elected, we lowered taxes for the middle class and increased them for the wealthiest 1% of Canadians. Canadians of all walks of life rely on Internet service for business and personal use, and we will not be introducing a tax on the Internet that would further burden them. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, so ultimately Canadians won't be getting a Netflix tax, they're going to be getting a streaming tax. We know that Liberals have lost control over public spending, and the only solutions they come up with are taxing Canadians even more. Mr. Speaker, can the government come to its senses and tell Canadians that they won't impose a streaming tax as the NDP and Liberal backbenchers are calling for? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. The government will not be putting on an Internet tax. We have always been clear on that. Since our government took power, we have increased taxes for the wealthiest. We have reduced taxes for the middle class. Canadians from all walks of life use internet for their businesses and for personal use, and we will not be putting in place a tax that will disadvantage them. The Honourable Member for Richmond Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister authorized the sale of a company that makes equipment that is used to ensure our security and that of the Americans without a national security review. Now, we're not the only ones who are concerned. The Americans are too. Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister finally tell us once and for all if he spoke to American elected officials and what he talked to them about when it comes to this transaction? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, national security is an absolute priority for our government. All transactions under the Investment Canada Act are subject to a review and process, which is a multi-step process. We have never compromised national security. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals left Bill C-51, the former Bill C-51, intact for almost 2 years, despite serious concerns about its constitutionality. Nothing on the no-fly list, nothing on the huge powers given to the intelligence services, just to name a few. There are serious violations of Canadians' privacy, and they voted in favor of that bill. So my question is clear. Will they finally repeal Bill C-51 with the legislation that they plan to table next week?
The Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I've been very clear that following the most extensive consultation with Canadians in Canadian history on the issue of national security and intelligence activities, we will be introducing important legislation. That legislation will accomplish two things. It will make sure that our agencies are keeping Canadians safe, and that legislation will also safeguard Canadian rights and freedoms.
Mr. Speaker, the only action we've seen from these Liberals on C-51 is when they supported the Conservative bill in the last Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, it's not very reassuring when you're deciding to table legislation in the dying days of a sitting of Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, it gets worse because we're also looking at warrantless access to the private information of Canadian internet users, something the Supreme Court has judged is unconstitutional. And so when we look at the Minister's office saying, quote, we're developing proposals for what legislation could look like, that's concerning. Can the Minister assure this House that we're not going to be giving police and spy agencies the powers to take Canadians' private internet information?
The Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, it's a frequent opposition tactic to try to spook people with innuendos and questions. The fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is the legislation will accomplish the two objectives that I mentioned. Number one, keep Canadians safe. And parallel with that, at exactly the same time, safeguard the rights and freedoms of Canadians, which includes their privacy rights.
The Honourable Member for Windsor West.
The proposed sale of Norsat to China's Hytera has been botched by this government, a company that is accused of stealing intellectual property and is under investigation in the United States. The Liberals continue to mislead Canadians by saying a security review was done. That is simply not true. U.S. officials raised the alarm, experts in the field recommend a review, and this government hasn't said anything about protecting Canadian jobs here. So why is this government misleading Canadians instead of admitting what they should have done in the first place? Order a formal security review. Do your job.
Honourable Minister of Economic Development.
Mr. Speaker, since the member opposite wants to talk about jobs, let's take the opportunity of this government's investment in Windsor. When we were in Windsor through the Strategic Investment Fund and the Automotive Innovation Fund, Ford Motor Company of Canada invested $1 billion, Mr. Speaker. That would help the city of Windsor and create up to 800 jobs in Windsor and in Ottawa at the Connectivity Centre. These are the kind of investments that are coming under the Investment Canada Act as we go out there explaining to the world that we're open for investment, open for trade, and making sure that we're open to people. We're going to focus on growth, we're going to focus on the middle class and those working hard to join it.
The Honourable Member for Rosemont, La Petite Patrie. Because of a legislative change, thousands, or hundreds rather, of employees at Avios lost their jobs, and because Air Canada waited 11 months before compensating them, those workers now owe thousands of dollars to EI. This is the case of Annie Belmar. Her husband lost his job at Avios. 2 years later, he died of cancer. Today, EI is clawing back $11,500 from Ms. Belmar. If nothing's done, she'll have to dip into the education fund for their 3 kids. More than 700 people are in absurd situations like this. Can the minister show some compassion and resolve these cases? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are always sad to hear stories like this in the House where people face difficult situations. EI is there to help those people. I would like to ask the Honourable Member to share with my office any information he has so that we can ensure that the proper situation is carried out. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, since the Norsat situation arose, what we're seeing is that Canadian diplomacy is facing difficulties here. Yesterday at the Senate committee, the Canadian ambassador to the U.S. confirmed, and I quote, that he thought that the Americans had been consulted, but then he retracted those remarks and said, I don't know anything more than what the Prime Minister said during question period. Can the Minister finally set the record straight for Canadians on this important issue? Sure. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the record is very clear. Under the Investment Canada Act, all transactions are subject to a national security review. We have enormous confidence in our national security agencies and the advice that they give us. And the advice that they gave us is the advice that we followed, Mr. Speaker. We never have and never will compromise on national security. The member opposite is creating allegations, innuendo. We're focused on growing the economy. We're focused on the middle class. We're focused on making sure those working hard to join the middle class have every opportunity to succeed.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Well, what's clear is that the company has confirmed that it's never undergone a review, and what's clear is that CSIS has stated that, Cabinet made the decision. And the U.S. is concerned about their national security and national security here. When will the government set the record straight on this important issue? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you know what is clear? It is clear that Canada's national security agencies examine the deal. You know what else is clear, Mr. Speaker? That the government followed the security agencies' recommendations. Those are the facts. Our security agencies have all the relevant information. They did their due diligence. They did the homework. They followed the process. They made a recommendation, and we accepted that recommendation and that advice. That is how the process works under the Investment Canada Act. We've always followed the process. We've done our homework, Mr. Speaker, and we always will advance Canada's national interest.
The Honourable Member for Haldimand Norfolk.
Well, Mr. Speaker, under the previous government, we launched a full national security review into the sale of military-grade technology to China. It warned that if approved, China could produce Western military technology, significantly reducing our and our allies' military advantage. Right. Now, with the Norsat sale, this Liberal minister has completely ignored that warning, putting Canadians and our allies' security at risk. Mr. Speaker, when will the minister stop butting up with China and start standing up for Canadians and our allies?
Hear, hear, right?
The Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we're always focused on advancing our national interest. That is why we listen to the advice and feedback given by our national security agencies. They examine all the relevant facts. They actually have access to all the relevant facts. They also engage with our allies as well, Mr. Speaker. And in doing so, they make a recommendation to us. And based on that recommendation, we agreed with their assessment. We took their advice. We followed their advice because we understand it's always important to make sure that we advance our national interest and never compromise on national security.
For Haldimand Norfolk.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's clear that the Liberals didn't do their homework when approving the sale of Norsat to Hytera Communications from China, because Hytera is currently being sued by Motorola for committing massive intellectual property theft. And protection of IP rights is crucial for successful innovation. So my question to the minister is simple. How can we believe that the Liberals are sincere about wanting to promote innovation when they go ahead and approve the sale of Norsat to a Chinese company that has been accused of stealing intellectual property rights?
Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we've been very clear that we respect our national security agencies. We respect the capacity that they have to do their due diligence, to be able to examine all the relevant facts, and to make sure they advance our national interests. And they did exactly that. They followed the process. They made a recommendation to myself. Based on that recommendation, we followed their advice and proceeded with the transaction. We've been very clear. We've been very transparent with Canadians. There's a clear process. We followed it under the Investment Canada Act, and we will always advance our national interest, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Chilliwack Hope.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the sell-off of BC-based Norsat to China-based Hytera raises significant national security concerns here in Canada and with our closest ally, the United States. Norsat is developing military technology for drones and F-35 fighter jets, and putting it in the hands of the Chinese military is a betrayal. We know that the Prime Minister is an admirer of the communist dictatorship of the People's Republic of China, but how can he possibly justify selling out our national security for these 30 pieces of silver?
Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, let me be absolutely clear. We never have and we never will compromise on national security. You know why, Mr. Speaker? Because we listen to the advice of our national security agencies. They have the ability to examine all the relevant information, all the relevant facts. They examine the situation very thoroughly. They made a recommendation. They gave us advice. We followed that advice, Mr. Speaker. We never have and we never will compromise on national security.
Order. I would ask the member for Bridle River Crowfoot and others to try to restrain themselves and listen to what people say during the question period. And let's listen now to the member for Chilliwack Hope.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member already has compromised national security. Norsat is a world leader in portable satellite communications terminals with customers that include the U.S. Marine Corps and the U.S. Army, allowing the transfer of such advanced military technology to Hytera, a company already accused of stealing proprietary technology from the West, jeopardizes the national security of Canada and our allies. Such a deal demands a full, formal national security review. Will the Prime Minister order such a review on this deal, or is he more concerned with pleasing his Chinese friends and backers than protecting the national security of Canadians?
Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know why the member opposite is attacking our national security agencies. We have full faith in our agencies. We understand that they have the capability, the resources to do the appropriate job. We understand that they are always going to advance our national interests. I don't know why the members opposite continue to attack our national security agencies. We have full confidence in them. That is why we followed their advice, and that is why we proceeded with the transaction, because we support our civil service and we support our national security agencies.
Honourable member for Disnethi, Missinippi, Churchill River. Order.
The Ontario Superior Court found Canada liable for failing to protect survivors of the 60 scoop. When the NDP stood in this House and asked the minister to uphold the judgment, she said, quote, "We will not be appealing." And the Liberals would resolve this, quote, as quickly as possible. 4 months later, and government lawyers are stopping the case from moving into the next phase. So why, despite all their talking points, are Liberals still fighting Indigenous people in court?
And the Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Taking action on the outstanding childhood claim, and I have a mandate to negotiate with all 60 scoop plaintiffs. As the courts have clearly laid out, no two experiences are the same, no two voices are identical. We believe that each individual deserves the justice they're entitled to. This goes beyond what the courts can prescribe, with revitalizing and restoring language and culture through community programs. Resolving these cases is an important step in our journey of reconciliation with Indigenous peoples.
The honourable member for.
Indigenous children were taken from their parents and placed within non-Indigenous families. They were denied their rights and stripped of their identity. When the court ruled in their favour, the Ministry of Indigenous Affairs said she would never appeal, and many felt redeemed, Mr. Speaker. Now the Minister of Justice continues to deny those survivors justice by appealing this decision, while she withdraw her appeal and repair the serious breach of human rights against these survivors. There cannot be no reconciliation in this country, Mr. Speaker, in the absence of justice.
Honourable Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I am not interested in going back to court on this file. Instead, we have the mandate to negotiate, and that is what we want to do. Let's be clear. The government is resolved to work with First Nations to resolve this issue. That is why we have already launched negotiations with a view to concluding a settlement at the national level for the 60s scoop. The negotiations will make it possible for all parties to work together with a view to providing a solution to this situation.
White Rock.
In an interview, the Prime Minister's special advisor on the Infrastructure Bank was asked how would the bank protect taxpayers from high user fees imposed by private investors. He replied, that's not the role of the bank. When asked how will the bank protect taxpayers if an investor abandons the project or defaults, he said, I don't really understand how it's an issue. If it's not the role of the bank to protect taxpayers and the Prime Minister's special advisor doesn't even understand why taxpayers need to be protected, how can the Liberals continue to support the development of the bank?
Honourable Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we put forward a very ambitious agenda to build and rebuild Canadian communities, and Infrastructure Bank will allow us to do that. And today, Mr. Speaker, we made $1.2 billion investment in the province of Quebec to build Montreal's public transit system that will create 34,000 jobs, Mr. Speaker. And our partnership with the province of Quebec and the leadership of Quebec, our Quebec caucus, is achieving tangible and real results for Quebec. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Lérable. Mr. Speaker, on the Infrastructure Bank file, the government is once again showing how arrogant it is. Neither House has finished studying C-44, and the position of bank president's been posted. And today, the Prime Minister has said that a bank that doesn't exist yet could potentially invest $1.3 billion in Quebec, and I think it's time to take a step back, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister finally allow parliamentarians to speak on this bank for Liberal friends, and will it split this off Bill C-44?
Let me state this again, Mr. Speaker, how proud we are about our partnership with the province of Quebec and the City of Montreal to support this project. That's the largest infrastructure project, largest public transit project in the recent history of City of Montreal. I'm so proud to be working with my Quebec MPs to have this project become a reality so we can keep on building the infrastructure that our communities need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Foothills. Order.
Mr. Speaker, in 16 days, Canada will turn 150 years old, and Canadians will be celebrating across the country with friends and family. And many of those celebrations will include some of the world's best beer, wine, and spirits, made right here in Canada. Unfortunately, the Liberals are looking at this as an opportunity to increase taxes on Canadians.
Oh, shame.
This year and every year after, the Liberals will be increasing taxes on beer, wine, and spirits. Shameful. Can the Minister please explain why the Liberals are so intent to tax the fun out of Canada Day?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
It's always a pleasure to rise in this House and to speak about the good work that our government has been doing. Our government's first action that we took when we formed government was increase taxes on the wealthiest 1% so that we could lower them for middle-class Canadians. We've also introduced a Canada Child Benefit Program that has lifted hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. Mr. Speaker, we are moving ahead with our plan to provide fairness, grow the economy, and strengthen the middle class by creating jobs and giving people the skills that they need for the economy of tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Well, Mr. Speaker, whoever came up with that answer and whoever proposed a never-ending tax hike was certainly drinking something.
Or smoking something.
In fact, our Canadian craft alcohol producers are already on the hook to pay some of the highest taxes in the world. In fact, an escalating tax was tried once before by the previous Trudeau government. It failed miserably. Many businesses closed, costing us thousands of jobs. It's not too late for the minister to put this policy in the drunk tank. Will they stand up for Canadian craft alcohol producers, the thousands of jobs they create? Will they cork this tax?
Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we know that when we have an economy that works for the middle class, we have an economy that works for Canada as a whole. Our government has cut taxes for 9 million middle-class Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We have introduced a Canada Child Benefit Program that has lifted hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. Mr. Speaker, our plan is working, we're moving forward, and we will continue working for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order à l'ordre.
The honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Fagotte. In 2006, this government cut funding by 33% to organizations caring for people living with HIV all across Canada. In April, the Minister of Health said in committee she had cancelled the cuts by putting $30 million in new money into the federal initiative on HIV. But strangely, her deputy minister later said that the minister had misspoken. Why is the minister so muddled when it comes to her own department? And is she going to cancel the cuts to these organizations, yes or no? The Honourable Health Minister.
This question. Responding to the needs of people affected by HIV and preventing new HIV infections is something that's very important to us. We did, in fact, put new investments in the budget. There will be an additional $35 million into the Canadian Federal Initiative on HIV and Hepatitis C prevention. That's in addition to the money that we're putting through the First Nations and Inuit Health Branch to also prevent new infections and treat those already affected by HIV. We will work through the Public Health Agency of Canada to address the needs of Canadians affected by HIV.
Honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, I have in front of me the department spending documents that prove there isn't a single extra dime in extra funding for the Federal Initiative on HIV. These documents prove there isn't an extra nickel for the Community Action Fund, the very program that funds the groups providing HIV care. The minister stated that she secured, and I quote, investments in the budget to expand the Federal Initiative on HIV of $30 million of new funding. This is demonstrably false, so will she apologize to the organizations she misled?
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I will be very happy at some point to sit down with the member opposite and clarify to him that, in fact, the Federal Initiative on HIV/AIDS is expanding in the order of over $30 million. I have been speaking with the Public Health Agency of Canada. We are making sure that good community organizations are going to get expansion to the programs and continue those good programs. We're also expanding programs like the Know Your Status program in Saskatchewan that has demonstrably decreased the rates of new infections. We will work with those agencies to make sure we protect Canadians.
The honourable member for Pierrefonds-Dollard. Mr. Speaker, Canadians understand the importance of transportation when it comes to reliable and efficient commuting to work, visiting friends or family, or getting back home after a long day. In the Greater Montreal area, it's important, more important than ever, to have a world-class public transit system so that our city can prosper. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities tell us how the government supports the expansion of public transit in Montreal? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for Pierrefonds-Dollard for his question. Today, I was proud to be beside the Prime Minister in Montreal, where he announced an investment of $1.3 billion by the federal government in the REM network in Montreal. This investment will create jobs for the middle class and support a modern and efficient public transit system for Montrealers and people in the area. It will cut commuting times and allow them to spend more time with their families. I'd like to thank the Quebec Liberal Caucus for their involvement in this file. Long live Montreal.
Member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the Innovation Minister assured this House the government had done their due diligence regarding the billion-dollar Chinese takeover by Ongbong Insurance of seniors' homes in British Columbia. Ongbong is built on risky investments, controlling over $250 billion in assets worldwide.
The minister claimed he had done his homework and there was no reason for Canadians to be concerned. But now, with the imprisonment of the company chairman on allegations of corruption and the ownership of Onbang's assets now in question, does the minister still think that this is a good idea?
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, as the Prime Minister reiterated yesterday, BC, British Columbia, has a strong, robust regulatory regime, and it imposes rigorous standards on care on operators, Mr. Speaker. Under the Investment Canada Act, when we reviewed it, we made sure that we were able to obtain strong commitments on employment levels, and more importantly, we wanted Cedar Tree to have the additional financial resources to create more jobs and more growth in British Columbia, Mr. Speaker. Like I said before, we're focused on growth and jobs, and that's how we did our analysis under the net benefit process.
Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
You gotta love that, Cedar Tree. I love that. Hey, the chairman of Onbang, Wu Ji-hua, was escorted by police out of his office last week, and no one knows where he is. Mr. Wu is the company's mastermind, and 92% of Onbang is owned by him or his relatives. With Wu's arrest, the Chinese regime could seize control of seniors' care facilities in BC. Mr. Speaker, what does the minister say to BC seniors who may end up with the People's Republic of China as their new landlord, and why did he put Liberal Party interests ahead of vulnerable Canadian seniors?
Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to vulnerable seniors, our government understands the importance of investing in them. That is why we increased the guaranteed income supplement for seniors. That is why we changed the old age security levels from 67 to 65, Mr. Speaker. That is why we're focusing on investing in seniors. With respect to the specific transactions, we did our due diligence, we followed the process. It was done under the Investment Canada Act, Mr. Speaker. And with regards to the regulatory requirements, British Columbia is responsible for that, and they're overseeing that process. Yes.
Far too much noise. Honourable Member Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing that this minister has done is sold our seniors down the road. Mr. Speaker, once again, we find ourselves talking about the Liberals' open, transparent, merit-based appointment process. We know that the Halifax Port Authority, 5 of the 7 board members are appointed by the federal government. Can you guess what all 5 Liberal appointed board members have in common? Every single one of them is a Liberal donor. The evidence is overwhelming. Will the Prime Minister finally admit that when it comes to appointments, only Liberals need apply?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, I totally reject the premise of that question. We have always been very clear that in our new, open, transparent, merit-based process that also looks at diversity, including gender diversity, that we are looking for the best and most qualified people to occupy these important positions in our port authorities. And I'm very proud of the selection that we have made for the fine port of Halifax.
Order. It's not appropriate to keep on bellowing and heckling throughout the answer to a question, so we're going to go on to the member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Violence against women in the Northwest Territories was 9 times the national rate, according to StatsCan. 80% of Northwest Territories communities don't have access to victim services. 85% don't have domestic violence shelters, and some women don't even have access to phones. If this self-described feminist government truly believes in equality and ending violence against women, how will Liberals ensure every woman has support? No woman is ever turned away from a shelter, no matter where she lives.
For the status of women.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for her question and for her advocacy. I can assure her that not only do we put gender at the heart of the work that we do, no relationship is more important to our government than that with First Nations, Inuit and the Métis peoples of this land. To that end, Mr. Speaker, we will very soon be announcing the gender-based violence strategy, which aims to do exactly what the member opposite wishes for it to do. Thanks to the committee for their work. This morning, we announced a significant investment in an organization that will be doing great work in northern communities across our country.
The honourable member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. The saga of the Catherine Spirit is getting to be a real farce, and the Liberals are making taxpayers pay for their mismanagement. The Transport Minister said in November 2016 that work would start after a call for tenders in the spring of 2017. It's now mid-June and still nothing. What's worse, according to the Journal de Montréal, work won't start till 2018 and finish perhaps by 2019. Will ministers quit jerking around the people of Beauharnois? Will they agree to meet with the mayor and me next week to give us an update on the situation? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, our government committed to protect the health and safety of Canadians as well as our water. We're taking all necessary steps to ensure that the ship in question is permanently removed in an efficient and safe way. Between June of last year and June of this year, a number of assessments were conducted. Proposals will be publicly advertised, call for tenders this summer, and the work should begin in the fall. Thank you.
An explosive report shows that in the last 18 months, Canada has seen a massive spike in asylum claims that will cost taxpayers a staggering $2.97 billion in welfare payments that have not been budgeted for. By doing things like lifting the Mexican visa requirement and turning a blind eye to the illegal border crossing crisis, the Liberals have created a huge processing backlog, failing both taxpayers and the world's most vulnerable alike. How is the Prime Minister going to pay for his #Welcome to Canada, #fail?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Immigration Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I'm very proud of our government's commitment to shelter those fleeing war and violence. The Commission recently announced new steps like more robust hearings that will lead to more productivity and more security for claimants. We plan to do more to speed up the processing of asylum claims. We'll be working together to make sure that our refugee system is robust, fair, and efficient. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the air and land blockade of Qatar by Saudi Arabia and other Gulf states is continuing. Saudi Arabia cites Qatari links with militant groups in the embrace of various terrorist entities, including Iranian groups. And Saudi Arabia is demanding that Qatar break all links with the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, and Iran. Now, Mr. Speaker, Canadians haven't heard a peep from the Liberals on this dispute, which includes both allies and enemies. Can the Minister explain why?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The stability of the Gulf Cooperation Council and the broader Middle East is certainly of importance to this government and to all Canadians. Canada is following recent developments in the region. We strongly encourage all parties to work together to resolve disagreements. Canada's consular travel advice has been updated to reflect the ongoing situation, and we are advising travelers to exercise a high degree of caution. We hope that issues between the parties will be addressed in a constructive manner. Thank you.
Member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, today another two cases of the deadly PED virus have been reported in Manitoba hog barns, yet the Minister of Agriculture has offered nothing more than bafflegab. More talk, Mr. Speaker. This morning we heard from industry pork experts that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, at the very least, needs to immediately bring back the biosecurity measures the Liberals eliminated, particularly the Trusted Truck Wash protocol. Will the Minister finally listen to these industry experts and stop needlessly putting these Canadian farm families at risk?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we're determined to protect animal health in Canada. We're working with our partners to ensure that this illness is contained. Our government is supporting Manitoba in its efforts to manage the current PED outbreak, and we will continue to do so. We want to ensure that we have a very effective transportation protocol to protect livestock. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Humber River Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, late payment of contractors in the construction industry for far too long has been a significant problem. Contractors who complete their obligations deserve to be paid in a timely manner.
Sure.
Too many workers and small businesses in the construction industry face severe hardship while they wait for payment of their work. Can the Parliamentary Secretary please inform this House of recent steps taken to ensure the prompt payment to these contractors?
Good question. Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
We have very good news today, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the honourable member from Humber River Black Creek for her hard work on this file. Our government strongly supports the prompt payment of contractors and subcontractors, and last week we were able to announce that we will publicly disclose payments to contractors to eliminate this unfair situation. This will provide our subcontractors with the information they need to get paid on time, and of course, along with the honourable member, we will continue to work with our industry partners to find further tangible solutions to bring prompt payment fairness to our trade workers and businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the official announcement of the University Vocation of Saint-Jean Military College is long overdue. The first student cohort is slated to get started this fall. Military officials are frustrated by all the delays. Can the Defence Minister confirm the number of announcements that have been cancelled over the past 18 months? And secondly, whether any university students will actually be in the classroom this fall? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, if my colleague read the new defence policy, it's there in black and white. The reopening of the Saint-Jean Military College, University College, it's good news, and this has had its effect. Many students have enrolled in the curriculum and will be able to continue their university studies at the Saint-Jean Military College.
Mr. Speaker, Churchill, Manitoba is facing a crisis. Almost a year ago, the port was shut down, and now it's the rail line. The community is suddenly isolated. Businesses are hurting. People are worried. We need immediate federal action. What Churchill is facing is a national disgrace. Our North deserves better. So will the federal government step in to address the immediate crisis and finally work to renationalize the port and the rail line and work with Northern and Indigenous communities to get it working again?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Speaker, we, as the government, always stand ready to provide assistance to any province or territory that requests assistance in the event of a natural disaster, such as flooding, and the Minister of Public Safety has been in contact with the Government of Manitoba to make that offer clear to them, and we're monitoring the situation. And from the Transport Canada point of view, we are developing a plan to make sure that both the Port of Churchill and the airport are capable of addressing the needs with respect to resupply for the people of Churchill.
Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, the previous government used every opportunity to attack middle-class Canadians who are part of unions in this country. They undermined the collective bargaining process and made it more difficult for Canadian workers to organize. The
previous government considered unions an obstacle, but our government sees them as partners in building a strong economy with good jobs.
Employment. Provide this House with an update on measures this government has taken to support the labour movement at home and abroad.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Vaughan Woodbridge for his question and his work on behalf of Canadian unions. Mr. Speaker, this week was a great week for Canadian labour and for Canadian workers. Yesterday, the Senate passed Bill C-4, an act that repeals two Conservative bills that were both egregious and deliberate attacks on organized labor. As well, Mr. Speaker, our minister ratified ILO Convention 98, a bill that guarantees, an act that guarantees workers' rights to organize and bargain collectively. This government ran on a platform of fair and balanced labor laws, and we will deliver that to Canadian workers.
The honourable member. The honourable member for Montmagny-Lillet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Heritage Minister claimed that she was part of an exemplary government that shows the way towards respect for official languages. If that's true, how does she explain the fact that complaints to the Official Languages Commissioner have shot up by 40% over the past year, and that her colleague, the Environment Minister, sent me a letter yesterday in English only to my office here in Ottawa about my riding, which is one of the most francophone ridings in the country. Could the Liberals spend less time appointing their cronies to high office? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Obviously, official languages are a priority for this government. When it comes to bilingualism, we're always striving to do better. We have an official languages commissioner. We will respect the process for appointing the next one. It's an important process. And that, of course, is a priority in terms of our government-wide approach. I'd like to remind my colleague that we've already taken action on this in areas of defense, justice, infrastructure, and so on, and I would encourage my colleague to take part in our consultations. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, all of Quebec's TV stakeholders, the actors, technicians, directors, screenplay writers, producers, in short, Mr. Speaker, the entire industry in Quebec is calling on the Minister to reverse the CRTC's decisions of May 17th. The Heritage Minister has the power to do that by law, but is she willing to? Is the Heritage Minister going to turn her back on Quebec TV or stand up in the face of this attack on our culture? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind my colleague how important, how significant our investment in culture has been. $9 billion in Budget 2016 is the largest investment in 30 years. We're the only G7 country to invest so much. And when it comes to the stakeholders in the creative industries, the CRTC has now ruled. There's legislation in place that allows for recourse, and so I will await. I'd like to take the time that I now have available to me to listen to stakeholders. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's very disappointing for our artists. After multiple constitutional experts and a unanimous motion of the National Assembly, now it's the UPA's turn to call on members of the House of Commons. Their demand is simple. Split Bill C-44 so that the Infrastructure Bank becomes subject to Quebec law, including legislation that protects farmland. Will this government, who ignores our National Assembly, listen to Quebec's farmers, yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, as often I have assured this House and the Honourable Member that any project undertaken by the Canada Infrastructure Bank will have to abide by all the rules and regulations of every province and municipality. And we will work very closely with the province to ensure that's exactly what happens. The role of the bank is to actually build infrastructure in partnership with provinces and municipalities, and we will respect local jurisdiction.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of Michel Koninsk, President of Eurojust and National Member for Belgium. I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Lisa Harris, Minister of Seniors and Long-Term Care and the Minister responsible for Celtic Affairs for the province of New Brunswick.
To commemorate Canada's 150th anniversary, the Speakers of the Senate and the House of Commons are hosting a speech writing competition for Canadians aged 12 to 17. Today, we welcome and congratulate the competition finalists, the 6 finalists.
150th anniversary, the Speakers of the Senate and the House of Commons are hosting a speech writing competition for Canadians aged 12 to 17. Today, we welcome and congratulate the competition finalists. I would therefore like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the 6 competition finalists: Armand Barskar, Ophélie Desfacé, Charlotte Lafleur-Marcotte, Lindsay LaRue, Braden Marshall, and Asha Mior. The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway is rising on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is said that it is one of the foremost responsibilities of parliamentarians to scrutinize government spending. Twice now the Minister of Health has testified in committee and now before this House that there have been increases in the budget to the federal initiative on HIV. I have in my possession the actual departmental spending estimates that show that this is not the case, not this year, not next year. And so I would seek unanimous consent in the interests of allowing the Minister of Health to prove that this is the case. I'm sure the Minister wouldn't want to leave this.
Unanimous consent? There is no unanimous consent.
The honourable member from Montmagny-Lisley, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup is rising on a point of order. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like, if you allow, to ask for the unanimous consent of the House to table the letter that I received from the Minister of the Environment, which was sent to me only in English, concerning the respective official languages here in this House of Commons and at all committees. This is completely unacceptable, so I wish the unanimous consent of the House to table this letter.